So today we have with us Shri M. Gopal Krishna sir. It's an absolute honor and privilege to welcome you, sir. Sir has been a towering personality, a visionary leader, a mentor par excellence, and a guiding light for several civil service aspirants. Not only this, recently sir has released his life story in the name of The Life of a Karma Yogi, who has several decades of experience, almost 6 decades of experience in public service, and it has been inaugurated by our renewable Chief Minister of Telangana, Revant Reddy sir, along with several IAS and civil servant officers, which is of immense expertise. He has brought in lot of experience in his book, which is a true light, guiding light for several aspirants across generations. Not only aspirants, for leaders, for entrepreneurs, for management studies. He has been a role model for several of these highly influential persons who are serving now in the government of India and several states. So when we talk about the life history of Gopal Krishna sir, he is a 1962 batch IAS officer and who is really a true karma yogi, as he has dedicated his life to public service, ethics, and who has been in the mentoring of several future leaders of this nation as well. So he has an illustrious career, which is a testament of excellence, resilience, and visionary leadership. From serving as a commissioner, home secretary, district magistrate, he also served as a special chief secretary of the state of Andhra Pradesh. So his administrative acumen can be set as a benchmark for several public administration as well as private management projects as well. His experience has also been sought by several prestigious international organizations like United Nations, Asian Development Bank, and various global think tanks as well. So beyond his swashbuckling career, he is a mentor and a management guru, shaping the minds of several young civil service aspirants. So beyond this, I would like to say that Sir's philosophy has been excel yourself, exceed your expectations, and enlarge your horizons. It is the mantra for success. So finally, he has been credited with several awards, amounting to total of more than 500 awards, including a famous Dean Paul H. Appleby Award for Public Administration and also the Bharat Shiromani Award. He stands as a beacon of inspiration for all of us. And today, we have the privilege to hear to him, the man whose life has been a masterclass in governance as well as public leadership. So let us give a grand welcome to the man and towering personality, Shri M. Gopal Krishna sir. Along with him, I request our chairman Krishna Pradeep sir onto the dais and give him a grand welcome to give his insights on his book of Life of Karma Yogi.
So his ideas are advanced of his times. You can utilize those ideas both academically as well as practically in your daily life. So they are useful for your syllabus academically, in your governance and in ethics. Particularly for the governance syllabus of UPSC, governance syllabus of TSPSC also, for the group 1 section. So we had a privilege of having him in our institution, and several times I have referred about him also in the classroom as well, about how he has made this book, and even especially the Chief Minister has also appreciated his work. So that itself is an indication. And 2 years ago, I think in 2022, Civil Service Day, April 21st is a Civil Service Day and also a foundation day for the 21st Century IAS Academy. So ఆ రోజున వెంకయ్య నాయుడు గారితో సార్కి సన్మానం చేయించేటటువంటి ఒక అవకాశం కూడా మాకు వచ్చింది. సో థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ సార్ ఫర్ యువర్ కంటిన్యూస్ సపోర్ట్. అండ్ సార్ ఈజ్ ఆల్సో వన్ ఆఫ్ ద మెంబర్స్ ఆఫ్ అవర్ మాక్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ బోర్డ్. సో థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్ ఫర్ హిస్ సపోర్ట్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Let me at the outset thank Shri Pradeep for actually inviting me and giving me the honor of addressing young aspirants to the civil services. మీ మేనమామ ఐఏఎస్ వచ్చింది, నా కొడుకు వానికంటే ఏం తక్కువ కాదు, అతనికి వస్తే నా కొడుకు ఎందుకు రాకూడదు అని షీ యూస్ టు యాక్చువల్లీ స్పూన్ ఫీడ్ మీ విత్ ఐడియాస్ దట్ ఐ మస్ట్ కంపీట్ and I must get into the IAS. So I really consider her my guru because she was the person who even during difficult times always encouraged me. My father was actually working in Burma as a forest officer and she was staying here because of the Second World War. So she came home. Her father was also an army officer, he was an army doctor. And we were staying in a very big cantonment bungalow because at that time Ballari was a cantonment and was a recruitment center for soldiers for the Second World War. So that is the environment in which I was brought up actually. So then what happened is I came here, my another uncle was working in Hyderabad. So we came to Hyderabad and I studied here in the Mahbub College Intermediate. Then I did my BSc from the Usmania University and I joined the law college. In the law college, I stood second in the university in the law paper. In the IAS, I hold the record. I got 100 out of 100 marks in the law paper, a very good record. And the the Secretary to Government of India wrote me a letter saying, your record can at best be equaled, never excelled. It can be equaled but never excelled. So you see that. Then what happened in 1962, the Chinese attacked India in the northeast frontier. So at that time they asked for volunteers. So I volunteered to go to NEFA and to just study what happened when the Chinese came and unilaterally withdrew from that area. So I went and saw the ravages of the war and then I actually made my own mental ideas of what should be actually done. After that, it so happened because I was sent there, they posted me to Assam. I was expecting a posting either in Andhra Pradesh or Karnataka or in Tamil Nadu. But they posted me to Assam on the ground that I had earlier been a deputy collector because I first joined the deputy. I was not of the age. See, 21 years is the minimum age for IAS. I was just 20 and 1 or 2 months. So I could not appear for the IAS. So I appeared for the State Civil Service, in those days AP Public Service Commission. So I stood first. There were only 3 vacancies of deputy collectors. I stood first. And I was posted in Guntur. So I actually did my 1 year's training in Guntur. I was posted as Revenue Divisional Officer in Guntur. After that, I appeared for IAS, got into the IAS actually. So after that in Assam, I worked for 12 years in Assam. I also worked for 12 years in Andhra Pradesh. I also worked in the government of India for 12 years. So you can imagine one third of my 36 years career. Also, 1/3 of my career was in the public sector, central public sector and the state public sector. Then 12 years was actually in policy. 12 years was actually on the field. So I had actually 1/3 in all important aspects of policy formulation, also of execution and also of the public sector. I became later on chairman of it is actually called SCOPE, Standing Conference of Public Enterprises. It's the apex body of 246 central public sector undertakings. I was elected as chairman of that, and at the time when disinvestment was there, I had the opportunity to present our case before the Prime Minister and also see that the public sector was not wound up, because I still believe that the public sector has a role to play, because the public sector is very large and it also laid the foundations and the sinews of our industrial development. So that was a very, very important thing I wanted to keep in mind. Now, many times I have been here to conduct mock interviews. I am considered a specialist in mock interviews. And in my autobiography, which is called Life of a Karma Yogi, Memoir of a Civil Servant, I have mentioned also, when I was under training in Assam government, we were undergoing a course of survey training and settlement training. So at that time, another officer from Assam came to know that I had done very well. I had got 100% marks in law paper. So he came and said, "Sir, can you please, I have got an interview in Delhi, can you please guide us?" So we were 6 officers in my batch allotted to Assam. All 6 officers, we were in a survey settlement camp. So he came before us. His name is Madan Besbarwa. He is an Assamese officer. So all 6 of us who were undergoing training, we constituted a mock. In those days, the concept of mock interview was not there. So the mock interview we conducted because all of us were at one place. And with the result that with 6 people questioning him, there was no question left which his Public Service Commission could even ask. So net result was that he was selected. So there the word spread that I am a very good teacher. So what happened is, later on, every time there was any such thing, even in Assam, when I was very young, myself under training, I was actually all asked to do the work of actually coaching. Because basically, what I learned in life is that if you are very clear in your mind, you are able to express yourself clearly, you can get across any idea in a nice and befitting manner. So this is what I always felt. So that actually happened, and therefore that reputation continued. After I retired from service, many people used to come to me. Initially, I used to conduct it in my home itself, free of cost, for interviews. And mostly people who appeared 3 times, 4 times, did not make it, they would actually come to me. And I would actually be very patiently sit down with them, ask them questions. Then the way I used to teach them was, I will ask them a question, he will give me an answer. I will say, why don't you answer it in 2-3 different ways? So I used to make him answer in 3 or 4 different manners, so that he himself understands what is the correct response and what is the way he should actually present himself. So these were things which I learnt as I gained more and more experience in conducting these interviews. Now coming to this, I had very many experiences because Assam was a totally new place and I had to learn a new language. Then I had to mix with those people, and then I was posted, I was under training. Then at that time in 1965, the Indo-Pak War took place. At that time I was posted as subdivisional officer in a place called Golpara in Assam. In Golpara, at that time, there were a lot of steamers which were running between Calcutta port via Bangladesh to Assam. They used to carry heavy material like cement, like sand, and also steel materials. So one of those ships which belonged to East Pakistan, when the war news spread, I captured that boat with big steamer, 2,500 deadweight steamer in the Brahmaputra river when I was a young subdivisional officer. So then that became news that the first enemy property was seized by me in actually Assam. So this is how the reputation spread that I am a tough officer. This reputation spread. Then later on, I actually had a quarrel with the MLA, local MLA, and then that time also the general thing was that I was considered a very tough officer. So next what happened in 1966, there was actually trouble in the Mizo Hills. The Mizos wanted actually a completely different place, an ethnic, for all the ethnic people. And some of the Mizos are even now staying in Manipur, and even today you find they are wanting actually another separate homeland for all the Mizos. They are called Kakimo Mizos. So there are very different types. There in Assam, lot of people belonging to different ethnics, most of them of Indo-Mongoloid actually, and most of them were actually very clannish. Everyone is very clannish in the, so we had a lot of different. Suddenly in Mizo Hills, the MNF, Mizo National Front, they actually cut off all communications to the hill district. So they cut off the bridges, they cut off the roads, and it was not possible for anyone to go. And except one Assam Rifles camp in Aijal, the capital city, there was no communication at all. The young officers were all actually captured, put in small jails, and my batchmate who was posted in Lungle, a subdivision in Mizo Hills, he was captured and taken away to East Pakistan by the rebels. Also another party of officers, audit officers from the AG's office, they were also captured and taken away to East Pakistan at that time. And East Pakistan was fully supporting these people, the rebels, by giving them arms, by giving them training. So we had a tough time actually, and then the army was asked to come in. So it was such a difficult situation that we had to march almost 150 kilometers from the plains up the hills to the capital town called Aijal. So there with the army unit I went, and while we were going, we were actually repairing the bridges also. So it took us about 15 days to march and then go and reach and then establish again government. And my task was to actually this. And my chief secretary was a gentleman called Kidwai. He was a UP gentleman, ICS officer. So he said, boy, you have a reputation for being tough. I want to be even tougher with the Mizos so that you bring back a semblance of that. There should be fear installed in them. So this is how it started. So I went to that place and we were able to actually bring back some element of normalcy. So that is also there. Why I am telling you all these things is that from there I had held different posts, different things, and most of them were related to actually bringing back normalcy under disturbed conditions. So I was considered this. In Mizo Hills, I was very tough. So what happened, I must tell you two small incidents. So many of the people had difficulty in pronouncing my name. My full name is M. Gopal Krishna Naidu. Though they found it easy to remember the word Naidu, it is very simple, whereas Gopal Krishna was a very difficult term for them. So everyone would call me, some people would call me Naidu, some people will call me Gopal Krishna, officials would call me Gopal Krishna, the Mizos would call me Naidu. It so happened, my senior officer, who was the commissioner, he was a Khasi gentleman. Khasi is another tribe in Assam. So from that gentleman came to Aijal, which was the capital. So in Aijal, I accompanied him for some portion of his journey, and then I asked my other officer to take care of him. So what happened is, he had some good impression about me. And at that time, I introduced myself, I am Gopal Krishna. So he remembered the word Gopal Krishna. Later on, he met the people and he asked them, how is your deputy commissioner, how is he doing? Sir, that Naidu is a very tough fellow. He has created fear in us. So all like that thing. So this gentleman, he went to Shillong and he gave a report to my chief secretary. My chief secretary was A.N. Kidwai. He gave him a report saying, sir, that Gopal Krishna is doing an excellent job. We may retain him in the position. The Naidu seems to have created terror in that area, So he may be transferred, not knowing that Gopal Krishna Naidu is one and the same person. So whereas my chief secretary knew my full name, so he had a sense of humor. So he's rang me up. Normally he used to ring me up and talk, but instead of ringing me up, he just sent a terse message. In those days, we had wireless messages through the police network. So in the wireless message, I got it, and the wireless message said very simply, report immediately to Chief Secretary. I had just been promoted as Chief Secretary, as Deputy Commissioner. So I thought, maybe I have not done well in the job. Why is it he's calling? And normally he would say, he used to address me, oh boy, he will address me like that. So when he actually, tersely I got this message, I did not know why I was being called. I did not know what file he wanted. So I was very anxious, very, this thing. So what I did, searched for my best suit I had, put on my best suit, tie, everything, and helicopter he sent me. So I went by helicopter to that place. So when I went there, first thing normally whenever I used to go there, he would say, come in boy. That's how he would address me. So then when I said, sir, may I come in? He didn't say anything. Looked tough, and so I thought maybe something wrong, my button is not all right or something. So I adjusted my buttons and then slowly went there. Very tough and in angry mood. He said, sit down. I got scared. Maybe I will be transferred out or something before doing my full tenure. I will be transferred out. I thought like that. So when he said, sit down, then I sat down. Then he said, put his hand like this. Are you Jekyll or are you Hyde? There is a story of the same man, two people, Jekyll. In the morning he is Jekyll, in the night he is Hyde. So Jekyll is a very good person, in the night he becomes a very bad fellow. So he said, are you Jekyll or are you Hyde? Since I read the story, so I could understand. He said, sir, I don't understand, I said. Sit down, boy, he said. I sat down. Then from the drawer, he removed a letter written by the commissioner to him. He showed me. There he said, Gopal Krishna is doing a good job. Please retain him. Naidu is a very tough boy. There no one likes him in the district because he is too tough. So he may be transferred. So he said, yes, your commissioner has given a problem to me. How can I transfer you? I have to cut you into pieces and then only transfer you. What can I do? So then he explained to me, look here, this is the way your officers, but myself, that is the chief secretary, I know every single fellow in my cadre with their full name, full particulars, details. So he said, you don't be bothered about that. I know that you are one and the same person. I thought you have been working feverishly and for a long time and without any rest. So I thought you must get some little rest and recreation. So that's why I have called you to Sam. Today we will meet in the evening in the club. And then he invited me the next day to his house for tea. So why I am saying you all this thing, despite all the tough situations, we had some nice funny moments also like this, and we also knew we were one to one, everyone was helpful to the other person. Like that, there are many incidents that had happened actually in the same manner actually. All those things are given in my book. And in the book, there are many incidents which happened in Assam, and there are some good moments also. I used to write poetry in Telugu, and I had it translated into Assamese. It was published in Bengali and Assamese magazines. And so it somehow got the attention of the Assam Sahitya Sabha. So the Assam Sahitya Sabha honored me, and I am the first non-Assamese officer to have been honored by the Assam Sahitya Sabha. So it is one of my very prized moments in my life. In the book also, in the photos, I have given that picture also there because it's something which is memorable for me actually. So there are something, then I had to learn Assamese language. In Mizo Hills, I had to learn Mizo Hills. And there the government does one thing. In those days, 1,000 rupees was a very big amount. So I passed the Mizo language test. So they gave me 1,000 rupees as a remuneration for having passed the tribal language. this is how things were happening. In Assam, I saw the vivisection of Assam. First, Meghalaya was formed, Nagaland was formed, Arunachal Pradesh was formed, all of them part of us. Manipur was a small district, and we used to send an under-secretary from the Assam Secretariat as the chief secretary. You can understand, such a small district and has now become a big state. See, the area was very big, but the population was very less. So this is how it was actually happening. So these things and lot of, and I used to be in Sibsagar district. It is considered a very important district because the Kaziranga Game Sanctuary is in that place. Similarly, we have ancient temples and other things. So in Kaziranga Game Sanctuary, I had also some role to play in making it a national sanctuary. I had a commissioner, a Sardarji called Sarao. So he actually was to write a report for the government to make it actually a sanctuary. So he was not very good in English. So he used to call me and say, you sit down and you write the report. So I had to actually help him in giving all the facts and figures to see how we can justify the case for making it a game sanctuary. And there, the rhinoceros is actually an animal found there actually. And the rhinoceros has actually a horn here. That horn is nothing but actually a conglomeration of hair. The hair itself becomes actually the thing. But there is a false mistaken notion that any person who takes that thing, powders it and takes it, he will be restored to male fertility. So that was the thing. So many people would hunt the thing just for the horn. And the horn used to be highly prized, particularly in China and in the Southeast Asia. It was highly prized. And therefore, people would unnecessarily kill this one actually. So to prevent that, we had to actually make arrangements to provide arms to the forest guards, etc. And this was what was happening. There are two incidents regarding wildlife I would like to quote. One of the rhinoceros, we had to go on elephant back to see the rhinoceros. One of the rhinoceros actually got blind in the eye. Even otherwise, they are short-sighted animals. But it got blinded. So when it got blinded, it found difficulty to know where grass is there to eat. And they have a peculiar habit that if they have to defecate, they have to go to a particular place only. That is their way of life. So what happened was, it was finding it difficult to know where it is going. So there was a small pygmy hog. A pygmy hog means a small pandi anamata. So that would come, it will go around the legs of the rhinoceros, grunt, go a little forward, again grunt. So this one can then find, it's blind. So it could actually find. So then I used to think, God has made such an arrangement, even an animal which is blind is helped by him by providing assistance to that animal. So I used to think, look how it is. Whereas the elephants also, what used to happen is, elephants were large number of elephants and we had lot of problems in keeping them under check. So these elephants, what they used to do is, from Kaziranga, there is a small grass patch which goes to another hill district called Karbi Anglong. So what used to happen is, when they were going in the green corridor, lot of lorries would come, trucks would come. So these elephants noticed that they were carrying bananas. So they would actually, two elephants would block the way. So the truck drivers would stop. And only if they were fed with bananas, they would permit it. So later on, truck drivers also came to know. And they used to bring also bananas, this thing, bunches with them. So whenever they got it, then they allowed the trucks to go. So this is how animals also have their own intelligence, they survive, things like that also were happening. I'm just telling you to see, so that you understand also what the place was like then at that time. The same thing continues like. There was only one bridge across the Brahmaputra. Now there are 4 bridges across the Brahmaputra. So this was a this population was less, and therefore it was very, very nice. So, and suddenly what happened, 1 lakh refugees were driven out by East Pakistan to India, and they had to come through the Garo hills. And it's a very tough area, and they have to cross the mountains, roads are not all right, etc. And most of them had to come and had to be provided food, shelter, etc. So my chief secretary rang me up, I was then in sub-divisional officer, said, you'll have to go to Garo Hills, go to that post and give me your view. So I went there to the border outpost, and at the outpost, the soldiers there told me, sir, it seems to be an unending influx, lot of people are coming, and every day the number of people crossing into India from Bangladesh is actually becoming more and more. So then what happened is, I immediately contacted my chief secretary and told him, sir, I think we will have to take them all to the plains, because in the hills we can't feed them and we can't manage the logistics. Better we actually bring them on to Assam, then only we can actually look after. He said, all right, why don't you yourself actually prepare for that? So I had to actually organize lorries to bring them. I had to organize a big camp. At that time I was running the largest refugee camp in India. 1 lakh people I had to accommodate. Carrying them all the way, those families, roughly 20,000 families. I had to see that there is no law and order problem. They do not deforest the entire forest for lumber. So I had to actually construct bamboo huts for them. I had to look after the children, provide for some milk for them, all these things. So suddenly I had to look after 1 lakh of people, and I was a young officer. I was hardly 26 years old. So you can imagine, I had to actually work 20 hours a day and then manage to see that there is no pestilence, nothing of that sort, and look after so many people. First time I realized how difficult it is to run one family. Now imagine 20,000 families, each one having a different request to make. So it was very difficult, but then we had to actually adjust it. I am giving you this just examples of what is in the book, so that any young officers, once going through that, they will understand what is the nature of duties you have to perform. And because with a deputy commissioner or a sub-divisional officer, whatever does not belong to any department is in your lap. So this is how it is actually, because the district administration, this is how they have been trained to do any work which is required at that particular point of time. And they can commandeer all the other departments so that they are able to get over the problem of manpower and how to actually deploy them to good effect. So this is something, just I wanted to give you an idea. Then I came to AP because Chenna Reddy, as a student I had known Chenna Reddy. So Chenna Reddy wanted me to come here for 2 reasons. One is that industries were not coming up in Andhra Pradesh, in Hyderabad particularly. Second thing was that Godavari fertilizers, they had started it, but it was not getting off the ground. So he thought, since I had worked earlier in the steel ministry, I was regional iron and steel controller here in Hyderabad. So he said maybe I could be useful because I had a steel background and I had visited all the steel plants. So he thought maybe I would be useful for seeing that Visakhapatnam steel plant gets off the ground. Visakhapatnam steel plant had bogged down. One, because it didn't have a ready supply of iron ore. It did not have dolomite supply. And also at the same time, land had to be acquired near Visakhapatnam. So I was then appointed as commissioner for Visakhapatnam steel plant. So I actually had to acquire 25,000 acres of land. Without any litigation, I acquired the 25,000. And Pedagantyada, I had actually set up. That thing today, Pedagantiyada is actually a flourishing part of Visakhapatnam. You might be knowing it. Also, at the same time, I had actually to carry out so many things. There was no water supply to this. So we had to actually get a Eluru canal actually dug to provide water supply to Visakhapatnam. I had to similarly actually do everything, and we had to invite Arkhipov because the British came, they said we can't assist. The Germans came, they said we can't give you, we are out of money. Then we asked the Americans. Americans say our hands are full with the Bokaro steel plant. We cannot actually help. So we did not know what to do. So ultimately we had to fall back on Steel Authority of India and the railways to see that a railway line is laid to Bailadilla. And then we had to actually get the Eliyaru Canal. And I was somehow or the other able to manage all these things as commissioner for the Visakhapatnam steel plant. And so ultimately this steel plant. But for that, what happened is, we suggested to the Chief Minister Chenna Reddy to write a letter to Arkhipov, who was the Deputy Prime Minister of Russia. So he was Deputy Prime Minister for Steel. We invited him. So he came to Visakhapatnam and we had to actually organize a big meeting. Chenna Reddy called me and said, Gopal Krishna, నీవు ఇది ఎలాగైనా చేయాలి, సాధించాలి. So whatever be the expenditure, etc., you must manage it. So we thought, what should be done? First thing we said, as soon as he comes in his special plane, we will actually provide 8 big Toranal antar kada, so gateways. So we actually, each gateway was differently decorated, and then he also wanted that we should actually present in the olden days in silver caskets or golden caskets. You see the silk thing, they will roll it like this. After rolling it, they will actually keep it and present it. So like this, he wanted me to actually organize. And then we organized all those. Arkhipov came. There was no good hotel except Park Hotel in Visakhapatnam. That was on the beach. So he actually came and he did a very good thing. And in that meeting, for the first time, Visakhapatnam, he said, Russians are willing, Soviet is willing to help in technology and in financing the equipment, and therefore for the first time there was a ray of hope that Visakhapatnam will have actually a steel plant. Till that time, there was no queue at all whether the steel plant will come up or not come up. So only after Arkhipov made that thing, we all heaved a sigh of relief that yes, it has been achieved. That day evening, the Arkhipov left by the flight. We all were going, and one bogie was reserved for the Chief Minister and our team. So we all got in. So that day, Chenna Reddy was the happiest man. So what happened at Tuni station, Tuni railway station, some jamindars there brought some 10 big steel tiffin carriers, you see, full of different. And in East Godavari district, people actually are very hospitable. And for them, food means mutton, chicken, then crabs, fish, and so many different varieties, you see. And Chenna Reddy was a good eater. So he called me and said, I was very conscious. I didn't want to eat, especially before him. So he said, no, you must eat for a young man, you must eat. So and I actually found it very difficult because so many items, and I said, sir, it is enough. I had enough of that. So why I am telling you is, there were moments of elation, of joy, and also at the same time, lot of this thing, whether it will happen, will not happen. So all these things, why I am telling you is, these are how a service officer will have to tackle different situations, and he is called upon to actually play different roles according to the needs of the situation. So these are some of the things I just wanted to tell. Like that, I can go on relating for a long time, but I won't relate all those things, because if you buy the book, you read the book, you will find all these things, and it will also give you the life story of a civil servant. And why I am saying civil servant should be a karma yogi is, you see, the theory of karma is that whatever job you have been given, you must do it to the best of your ability. You must not be attached to the results. Whether the results come or not is not in your hands. It is in God's hands. But doing your duty is your work, and you have to do your. That is the real theory of karma. So I said every officer is supposed to be a karma yogi, and particularly the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Department of Personnel has specifically issued orders that every IAS officer must function like a karma yogi. So that is why the title is Karma Yogi, means you must do your duty irrespective of the results and without attachment to the results. And that means whatever job is given to you, make the best of that job. So this is what is actually meant by Karma Yogi. And there I have given many of the memoirs so that it makes it for interesting reading, and particularly for people who are aspiring to become IAS officers, it will help them to understand the nature of duties an IAS officer is called upon to perform. And the other thing I thought which would be of more relevance to you, though if you read the book you will get a lot of instances, and to keep it not so boring, so I have actually tried to give as many incidents as possible so that the human element also comes out in this. Because whatever job you do, ultimately you are doing it. So your personality is reflected in whatever job you have done. Now, many people, especially aspirants like you who want to crack the civil services examination, you would be interested more in terms of what is it that should be done if you want to clear the examination. I think that would be more what your interest will be. So I would like to actually tell, in my book also, I have mentioned, it's called Tryst with Destiny. In the book there are 8 chapters which will be of use to civil servants. So one of them is actually, I have said, a 10-point program for acing the civil services. So what I have mentioned in that is, first is, everyone must have a strategy they must adopt. Strategy for clearing the civil services, it must be realistic, it must be time bound, it must be practical, and it must meet your individual requirement. All these things must be served by it. Also at the same time, you are wanting to become is like a dream. Dream is called in Telugu Kalpana. Kalpana, first and foremost, requires parikalpana, plan of action. Parikalpana requires Rupa Kalpana. Rupa Kalpana requires Karya Nirvahana. Karya Nirvahana leads to Karya Sadhana. So this is actually a particular process. You have to follow the process. Right? If you are writing down, Kalpana requires first and foremost Sankalpana, determination, I will do it. Sankalpana. Sankalpana requires Parikalpana, plan of action. The plan of action calls for Karya Nirvahana. You have to do your job. And that leads to Sadhana. Only if you follow this process, you will be able to do it actually. This is one very important. Next important thing. That day's work must be done that day itself. Don't postpone that day's work to next day. That day's work must be done that day. In project management in Godavari, I learned one thing. Plan the work, work the plan. Plan the work, work the plan. And keep a diary. Note down what you wanted to do that day, how many items you could actually check and say that I have done it, and what still remains to be done. This is a very important thing from my point of view. Next, many officers do not write well. Handwriting must be clear, legible, and you must practice writing. Many of the people are practicing typing, not writing. So you must actually practice writing, because in the given time you should be able to complete, whether it's the essay or any other answer, you must be able to complete it. So therefore, first roll the idea in your mind, fix up what you want to say, and then say what you wish to say. So this is very, very important from your point of view. The next thing is, my mother taught me a very small thing. She said, son, if you have to do well in anything, remember one thing. Do your homework, put in hard work, put in smart work, build a teamwork, create a network. Homework, hard work, smart work, teamwork, network. Please write down. Homework, hard work, smart work, teamwork, network. You may not have everything with you, but someone else will have. If you network, you will get that thing. I am giving you small tips. Okay? Next is time management. Most of the officials, time management is extremely important. And especially you are staying somewhere, you have to commute, the time taken to go there, the time to, and what time are you able to have your breakfast, your lunch, everything must be done on time. So time management becomes very important. And in the time management, most important thing is that you must carefully study the scheme of the examination, gain basic knowledge of compulsory and optional subjects, and practice writing. Practice writing. That's the most important thing actually. And many of you know NCERT textbooks you'll have to read so that you get a background knowledge, and then buy standard textbooks. Don't go by, many students now I find they only read guidebooks, they only do not read actually the standard textbooks. First important thing is standard textbook. After reading this textbook, in pencil you mark a particular line, a particular sentence, a particular word. And what you must do is, second time you read it. Supposing you mark the entire line. Second time you read with a rubber, from the line you make it actually a small word. That is how the keyword emerges. Write down the keyword. If you get the keyword, you can recall that entire thing. So that's how. Every paragraph you must have one or two keywords. If you note down the keywords in a book, you can easily actually remember and recollect whatever you have to do. Right? So very important keywords and how to find out those keywords. The next thing is, you must make your own personal SWOT analysis. Your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Everyone must himself or herself, or otherwise ask your parents. The parents will tell you, this is your strength, this is your weakness. Similarly, your friends can also tell you, this is your strength, your weaknesses. So this is one very thing. Second is time management, means how much time are you allocating to the prelims. When you are appearing for the prelims, you must give full time to the prelims. Once you pass the prelims, then only the question comes, what do you allocate for the mains? What do you allocate for subject? So this is under optionals. So what happens is, when you are actually doing the preliminaries, you are reading mostly about the mains. You have to first get through the prelims before you can think of the main. So one step at a time. That is how we have to actually do. So this is one very important thing that you will have. Writing the essay, you must practice throughout writing the essay. And you must actually, normally when people come after having failed, I used to tell them, give 30 simple things which you must read. So 30 essays which you write. So that means every week one essay you write, have it corrected by some professor or someone, and so that you also learn what your mistakes are. This is very important in my opinion, which you should keep in mind actually. And then your optionals also, you must consult some person, what your strengths are, how many marks you got, and then decide what your optionals are. Many people will go by, most of them I find say, what is an easy subject, what is a difficult subject. Many people will think anthropology is easy, sociology is easy, like that. You see, no, you must actually look at, because sometimes what happens is they will ask you, you are a technically qualified person, why don't you give the subject? They are not sure about it. Because you see, what has happened is, you must be very, on the basics and the fundamentals, you must be very strong. Only then you can actually do your job effectively. So this is something which you must remember. And for optionals also, take the advice of other people who can tell you. You also read the book. Once you read the book, you will also understand whether it interests you, whether you find it easy, whether you think you can remember it. These are things which we need to actually understand. So this, I think, is extremely important, how you actually choose your optionals and what are the books you should read. And I would recommend one thing. Many of the institutions do not actually recommend reading the India Yearbook, Government of India publication, India Yearbook. India Yearbook, if you go through the contents and if you go through it, it gives in the history of every state. It gives particulars of every state. And if you go through it, all the government plans, all the government schemes, everything is given. Unfortunately, many institutions do not tell them to purchase the yearbook, the standard Government of India yearbook, which is usually published in the month of May. So if you actually, it will be available in, I think in Koti, it will be available in Sultan Bazar. It is also available in the NTPC office at Kavadigoda. There is a Government of India Publications Division. There also it is actually available. Then if you purchase that, it will help you because you will have a fairly good picture and an idea of what the subjects that is covered in there. And many of the people who set question papers for the IAS go through that book before they set up. So it's very important that you actually purchase that book and read that book. Similarly, I would like to tell another thing. What books you should refer? Many people ask this question. Standard books prescribed by UPSC, and then latest yearbook of the Government of India, and then standard books on ethics and values. Unfortunately, on ethics and values, you do not have standard books also. And though everyone has to relate it to whatever they know. So ethics and values, and I found that many times ethics and values is a bugbear for many students. So many people advised me, why don't you write something on ethics and values? So what I decided is, I used to give a lot of lectures. I have given over 1200 lectures to learned bodies, to big associations and all those things. I have actually picked up from there subjects on which I spoke, which was mostly on ethics and values, whether it was administrative staff college or whether police academy or the National Academy of Administration. Those I have compiled into a small booklet which is about 150 pages. It is actually called Ethics and Values. I have written it. It is mostly a compilation of lectures that I have actually given. So that I think might be useful for you because it rounds up and tells you and also gives you some examples and also Sanskrit slokas and Sanskrit sayings which we all unknowingly follow in our life. So this is something which I think would be very helpful you. And then you decide what books to purchase, whether it is for compulsory or optionals, and then what are the other books you have to read. So I would recommend that you read any short versions, whether it is the Bible, whether it's the Quran, whether it is the Gita, whether it's on Buddhism. Better to read simple, small things. And what I recommend is, if you go to the Ramakrishna Mutt here, there in that bookshop, you will find very good books there. Simple books, very cheap books, not very costly. If you just read like this for just some information, you will get a lot of knowledge from that, so that it will help you both for the written examination as well for the interview. Then the other thing is, every IAS aspirant must be mentally prepared and internally motivated. Two things are required. First is mental preparation, internal motivation. See, the exam is like performing a yagna. See, in a yagna, you must be devoted, have a strong desire for the result, and then you must fit it your goal. And one very important thing I tell everyone, and this is applicable to everyone whether appearing for an exam or not, there are two words which are very, normally everyone has a question. Can I do? నేను చేయగలనా అని ప్రశ్న వస్తుంది, అందరికీ వస్తుంది. కానీ దానికి బదులు క్యాన్ ఐ డూ నుంచి ఐ క్యాన్ డూ. Converting the can I do philosophy, can I do mentality into I can do. నేను చేయగలను. That's a very powerful affirmative. Whereas can I do is, it is not very confident. So most important thing, first thing you mentally, you must say, can I do must become I can do. నేను చేయగలను. This is the biggest thing that all aspirants must keep at the back of their mind. If you keep that in mind, you can actually do, because that is a great thing. I can do. నేను చేయగలను. That is a very, very important thing, and this I think you must. Next is place of study. ఎక్కడ మనం చదువుతున్నామో ఇంపార్టెంట్. యూ హ్యావ్ ఏ టేబుల్, సిట్, చైర్. మన పుస్తకాలు ఏమి చదవాలనుకున్నామో ఆ రోజు ఆ పుస్తకాలు దగ్గరలో ఉండాలి. ఆ పుస్తకాలు అక్కడ పెట్టుకోవాలి, నోట్బుక్ ఉండాలన్నమాట. సో అక్కడిదక్కడే మనం రాయాలన్నమాట. There itself we must write down whatever you. So simple things. But what happens is, later on when you don't have time, when you just refer to that, you will recollect. And also wherever possible, try to get an acronym. ప్రతి దీనికి ఒక యాక్రోనిం పెట్టుకుంటే ఏమవుతుందంటే, ఆ యాక్రోనిం జ్ఞాపకం వచ్చిందంటే మొత్తం మనం చెప్పేయచ్చు అన్నమాట. సో దట్ ఈస్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్ దట్ యూ మస్ట్. రెండోది, ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఏమవుతుందంటే, దిట్ ఈస్ ఎ ప్రాసెస్ విచ్ యూ మస్ట్ ఫాలో. ఏమైనా ఇప్పుడు నేను ఒక చిన్న కథ చెప్తాను. యాక్చువల్లీ ఇది, నేను మా ఇల్లు మెహదీపట్నంలో, అక్కడి నుంచి సెక్రటేరియట్ వెళ్ళేటప్పుడు పెద్ద సినిమా హోర్డింగ్ ఉంటుంది అన్నమాట. లక్కడి కప్పుల దగ్గర పెద్ద సినిమా హోర్డింగ్ ఉంటుంది. ఆ సినిమా హోర్డింగ్ చూస్తుంటే నేను వెళ్తుంటే దాన్ని ఏమి గమనించిన అన్నమాట. ఐ డోంట్ పే ఎనీ అటెన్షన్. ఈవెన్ దెన్ ఐ సీ దట్ దెర్ ఇస్ ఎ హోర్డింగ్. నేను కొద్దిగా అటెన్షన్ పే చేసింది అనుకో. అటెన్షన్ పే చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది, ఐ కెన్ సీ యాక్చువల్లీ ది సినిమాస్. ఇంకా కొద్దిగా అబ్జర్వ్ చేశాను అనుకో. If I observe, what will happen is, I will see who is the heroine, who is the hero, what dress, what the jewels, everything I will observe. So you are moving from attention to concentration to observation. It's a process of the mind, how it works anamata. And then what happens is, slowly like that, then you are finally arriving at the thing. There it gets stuck in the mind. Memorization, it goes into memory. When it goes into memory, anytime you can recall it. The moment you can recall it, you can easily actually. So this is a process. It is called ACOMID: attention, concentration, observation, memorization, and intelligence, and then decision. You see, it's a process. So everything that we do in life is a process. Once we understand the process, everything will fall in place. This is something which I think the place of study is very important. It must be undisturbed. So I always recommend people should get up at 5 in the morning. At that time everyone else is sleeping, and you find undisturbed, quiet, calm. That is the time whatever you read, it will stick in your mind. So 5 to 7 I find is the best time to read. And after 7, slowly the house gets bestirred, everything will happen. So then you also have to get ready. You have to come to the classes. All those things will happen. So 5 to 7 is the best time. Whereas in ancient India, Brahma Muhurtam. That was actually 3:30 in the morning. So that 3:30 in the morning was, in those days, it was like that. But now you also have to rest, because they would sleep very early, whereas today you are sleeping much later. So that is why it's better that you actually follow a particular time, so that you stick to that time, and then make time, commuting time, coming to the class, everything you should actually calculate and do it. And next is, how much time is required to actually prepare for the examination. I think at least 1 year of intense study is required, unless you have already been in service or you have already, otherwise you need actually, 1 year study actually is required. There you have to provide for prelims, for the mains examination, and take into account your level of knowledge. And for that, you better ask your mentor, you ask your teacher, you ask seniors as to what do they feel about you and how much you know or how much you need to know. Actually, faculty can guide you very much in this one as to how what books to read, all those things. And you should ask. And one thing also, faculty also, I find, today what is happening, faculty feels that he has to do only for that 1 hour and then walk off. Whereas, really speaking, faculty must remain and ask, have you any questions? Then answer as many questions as possible. Because by not doing, you are not encouraging people to start questioning. So everything comes from questioning. All research is from questioning. So questioning is very important. So if you have read and you have doubts, you must ask. And it must be the duty of the faculty to answer your doubts. That's really what is done. But many times I found people coming from Delhi, giving a talk, going back in the afternoon flight, or going to 2 or 3 institutions, they won't have time at all. So this is also one thing we have to keep in mind. Then which subjects to give? This is something which every one of you must carefully go through it, and it must look at, are you really interested in the subject? Do you find it easy? Not only easy, do you find it interesting? Only when it is interesting, you feel like reading. If it is not interesting, you won't read. So this is also a very important test to find out what it is. Because especially what subjects you give for optionals, you must keep these points in mind. Very much keep this in point. Then study schedule, how should it be? My feeling is you should get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Many of you I know will get maximum 6 hours sleep. That's not enough. You must actually have 7, 8. 8 is very good, but 7 also is acceptable. But you must actually feel refreshed. First test is when you get up in the morning, you must feel, good day, I start my life with a good day, happy day. Like that you must feel. Unless you feel like that, it means you are not refreshed enough. So that you must have a feeling like that. And then after that you attend classes, so commuting time, etc. like that. And then afterwards you must play some game, something, shuttlecock or anything, volleyball, anything like that in the evening, so that you are actually fit and also at the same time you feel energetic. So this is very important for you to feel like that. Also newspapers. Many people ask me this question about newspapers. I recommend minimum 2 newspapers you must read. I would recommend you read a paper like the Hindu, where the editorials are very good. You read another economic paper, whether Economic Times or Financial Express, anything like that. So because what happens is, you must know both the general view as well as the specific view. So those things will be covered by an economic paper and a general paper. And you can read, and if people are appearing in the local language, you read Enadu. That's also a good paper. So these are things that which you must actually do. And second, even when you are reading the newspaper, be interested in international affairs. Because many times in the questions, the international affairs definitely asked actually, and editorials are very important. And you note down the keywords in the editorials, and that will be very helpful. I have coined something like this. What you have to do is, A means be alert, B means be bold, C means be confident, D means disciplined, determined, E means enthusiastic. All this you must develop to achieve your goal. And remember 3 powerful words. I can do. That is very positive anamata. You must say, I can do. Dress is very important. Dress must be comfortable. And especially in an interview, you must be in formal dress. Formal dress. For boys, a suit is very important. Good tie, preferably blue colored suit is very important. As for ladies, salwar kameez or sari, according to their choice, they must actually have. Preferably not too very dark, not too very gaudy, but pastel colors, light colors, that is very good. And then comes the final test, the interview. The interview is very, very important. And in the interview, what happens is how well you have done your mock interviews. And if possible, many institutions run mock interview. Go to more than one mock interview. It will help you also, because you will know the type of questions that will be asked and what is the type of answers that are expected. So this will be very, very important for you. And on the day of the interview, read the newspaper. Early in the morning, read the newspaper. Know what the headlines are. Because one of the questions in the mock interview will be, what are the headlines today? You see, it can be a very simple thing. And some questions will be asked about that. And then you must have a realistic assessment of the UPSC. So therefore what happens, attend as many mock interviews as possible. So it gives you a level of confidence which is very, very good for you. And the final ranks also, 275 marks is for the interview. So very important that you get the maximum marks in the interview. And in the interview you must aim at a minimum of 170 to 180 or 190 marks. The more marks you get there, the better is your selection to a better service. So this is very important for you, and that is very, very important. Then please remember one thing. The interview is not a test of knowledge. It is not a test of knowledge. It is a test of personality. It's a test of your responsiveness. It's a test of your integrity. It's a test of your empathy. It's a test of your aptitude. It's a test of your suitability. These are what we are looking for. We are not looking for how much knowledge you have got. That means, are you confident? Now some candidates will be like this. They'll be sitting on the edge of the, not like, sit comfortable. If they sit like this, you must have a feeling, వస్తే రాని రాకపోతే కూడా పర్వాలేదు. Unless you have that feeling, you cannot actually, you must show that confidence to the person who is interviewing you. So that you must actually show this thing. And one very important thing, you see, you must dress well, you must feel confident, and you must feel వస్తే రాని రాకపోతే పోనీ. So you must have that feeling actually. Then only you see you will do well in an interview. Second, I want to, there's a Sanskrit sloka which I want to go. So what gives a person respect in the eyes of others? In the eyes of others, what gives a person respect? Vastrena, your dress, what clothes you wear is very important. First impression is from your clothes. Vastrena. Vapusha, your personality. That means, are you confident? Are you in control of yourself? Vapusha. Vacha, how you speak. How you speak. Vacha. Vidyaya, the knowledge that you have got and the clarity with which that knowledge is exhibited. Vinayenacha. Vinaya means actually humility. These manavaha prapnoti gauravam. The man gets gaurav only when he exhibits these qualities. And so his dress is very important, his speech is very important, his behavior is very important, and also his humility is also equally important. These are things which everyone who goes for an interview must keep in mind actually. It's like this. Sometimes, whatever you have studied, etc., may be very useful for a regular 3-day match or a 5-day match. But the interview is, yeah? Tell me, what is it? It is like it's very much like a 220 or 120, whatever it is. So it is like this. In a short time, you must actually show the different aspects of your personality. Today also, if there is yesterday match, you have to show within that short period, isn't it? Whatever skills you have got, it has to be exhibited in that short period itself. So in the interview, is something like that. It is also a game of that nature. And basically, an interview is a test of 4 things. Physical quotient, your physical quotient. Are you well built? Are you are confident? How do you carry yourself? This is one thing, physical quotient. 2, intellectual quotient. Whether you are able to understand and quickly to the point answer. Don't answer more than what is required. Many people by heart the answer and tell that is not correct. You must actually answer to the point so that you give the others also to examine you. There will be 5 people in the interview board. Second is intellectual, so that you are able to understand, you are able to answer and to the point actually. That is very important. This is called the physical quotient, the intellectual quotient, the emotional quotient. That means that you do not break down. There is no difference between one and the other. Sometimes they will provoke you, sometimes they will ask you a question to put you off. So you must not be feeling, you must smile, keep this thing actually. Because smiling is very important if you don't know the answer. Finished. So that at least you are not getting bad marks. You see, this is something which is, and one very important thing is that spiritual quotient. Spiritual quotient means, as I told you, I am doing my best. The rest is not in my hands. I am a karma yogi. I have done my duty. I have appeared before the interview. You must take that view. So that is very, very important for you. So that is why actually it is a test of your listening skills, your reading skills, your understanding skills and your speaking skills. These skills are actually tested. And one thing important, please do not bluff. You do not know the answer, say sorry sir, then it's enough. You don't have to bother about anything else. So there's nothing wrong in saying I don't know the answer. See, but don't bluff. And many times what happens, and interviews I have seen, that they parrot like they by heart the answers and they go on just repeat it. That's not good. You must actually respond according to the question in the time that they are given, and that is how it is. And in the interview board, there will be an IAS officer, there will be the chairperson for that interview, there will be an IPS officer, there will be a psychologist, and there will be a language expert. All of them will be sitting. So one by one they will ask questions. And the first questions will start from the chairperson who is a member of the UPSC, and he will start with your DAF. whatever your detailed application form, he will start from the particulars that you yourself have presented. So that is something where you have to be familiar with your DAF. This is one thing. And then, please remember one thing. Very few people are called for the interview. But among the few people called for the interview, 1 out of 2 will be selected. So there is no worry about selection if you are called there actually. So how to get in there is the most important thing that you must keep at the back of your mind. So these are some of the things which I thought I should mention to you because these are in the book. Now I leave it open to you to ask me any questions that you would like to ask. I will try to answer. Any questions you want to ask me. Need not be only with reference to your course here or with reference. Anything you want to ask, you can ask me. I come from a military family and we come from a cantonment area. So when I was very young, I used to go to the Talim Khana or Akhada. I used to do wrestling. I used to do boxing. Then later on, even when I was in school and college, I used to play hockey. And I was also a good wrestler. And I was good a kabaddi player. So I was 10 years the chairman of the Hyderabad Kabaddi Association. I was chairman of the Hyderabad Wrestling Association. I was chairman of it, and I was a vice president of the Hanuman Vyayam Shala here. So that was this thing. So that is why at my age also I keep fit only because earlier when my young age I was a very good, especially mostly in wrestling and things like that. And that reminds me one small thing I will tell you. I got married in Rajahmundry. My wife is from Rajahmundry. She comes from a Jamindari family and they are also army family actually. They also from an army family. In the marriage, what happened, I had invited all my friends in the wrestling association, in the boxing association and in the weightlifting. Some 2 busfuls of these people came for the marriage. It was in the night. So for the dinner, when they came, the people were serving them. So when they were serving them, they would come with rice. Many people, the moment you put, they'll say stop, isn't it? These fellows would never say stop because all of the hefty wrestlers, ఎంత పెడితే అంత పెట్టమనే వాళ్ళే ఆపమని ఎవడు చెప్పేవాడు కాదనమాట. సో వాట్ హ్యాపెండ్, వాడు ట్రేస్ తీసుకొచ్చి అగైన్ అండ్ అగైన్ ఈ సర్వింగ్ ఇట్స్ ఎగ్జాస్టెడ్ అనమాట. సో అదైన తర్వాత కాయగూరలు తెస్తే అంతే, ఇది తెస్తే అంతే. So then they soon realized, the cooks realized, at this rate, whatever we had estimated will not be sufficient. So they started cooking also separately. Apart from that, what happened is, they also thought, sweets ఇస్తారు కదా, అప్పుడు స్వీట్స్ అక్కడ తయారు చేస్తారు. ఆ స్వీట్స్ కాకుండా కొంచెం పెద్ద సైజ్ స్వీట్స్ సారే అంటారు. అమ్మాయితో పాటు ఆ సారే పంపిస్తారు అనమాట. సో అది కూడా చాలా పెద్ద పెద్దవి అనమాట. లడ్డు ఇంత ఉంటే వాళ్ళకి ఇంత పెద్ద లడ్డు సారెలో. అట్లా వాళ్ళు ఏం చేశారంటే, when these fellows started eating, so they insatiable అనమాట, వద్దు చెప్పటం లేదన్నమాట. సో దానివల్ల ఏమైందంటే వాళ్ళు రెండోసారి మళ్ళీ కుక్ చేయాల్సి వచ్చింది. సో సారే అంతా కూడా వచ్చిందంతా తినేశారు అనమాట. సో ఆ ఉన్న సారే అంతా పెట్టేశారు అనమాట. మళ్ళీ ఇంకొకసారి మాతో సారేకు వేరేగా తయారు చేయించవలసి వచ్చింది. ఎందుకు చెప్తున్నానంటే, బికాస్ ఆఫ్ మై దిస్ థింగ్, దిస్ వాజ్ ద టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఫ్రెండ్స్ ఐ హ్యాడ్. మీకు అర్థమైందిగా, అస్సాంలో కూడా నేను ఐ యూస్ టు యాక్చువల్లీ డూ ప్రాక్టీస్. దెన్ ఆఫ్టర్వర్డ్స్ బికాస్ ఆఫ్ ది ప్రెషర్ ఆఫ్ వర్క్ ఎక్సెట్రా, నేను టిల్ ఐ వాజ్ ఏ సబ్ డివిజనల్ ఆఫీసర్ ఆర్ ఏ కలెక్టర్ అంతవరకు నేను హాకీ ఆడేవాడిని అనమాట. తర్వాత ఇట్ వాజ్ నాట్ పాసిబుల్ టు డూ ఇట్ అనమాట. ఫిజికల్ హెల్త్ ఈజ్ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. లక్కీలీ నేను ఐ యూస్ టు వే 180 pounds అనమాట. ఇట్ వాజ్ వెరీ వెల్ బిల్ట్ అన్నమాట. అండ్ దెన్ న్యాచురల్లీ ఏజ్ ఒకటి. And then slowly people also said you must reduce your weight. So slowly I reduced my weight అన్నమాట. ఇప్పుడు ఏమవుతుందంటే, స్టూడెంట్స్ కూడా రోల్ మోడల్ అని ఉంటారు. యూ మస్ట్ టేక్ సమ్ పర్సన్ యాజ్ అ రోల్ మోడల్. ఇఫ్ యూ టేక్ యాజ్ అ రోల్ మోడల్, అది మీరేం చేయాలి. ఇప్పుడు మెనీ పీపుల్ యాక్చువల్లీ మెనీ ఐఏఎస్ వాళ్ళు చెప్తారు, మేము మా సబ్ కలెక్టర్ని చూసి నేర్చుకున్నామండి, మా కలెక్టర్ని చూసి నేర్చుకున్నాము, మా కలెక్టర్ అతనితో కూడా డవాలు వేసుకుని ఒకరు వస్తారు, తర్వాత అతను అంటే ఎంతో ఇది సిబ్బంది ఉంటారు, ఇవన్నీ చూస్తారు కదా. సో ఒకటి వచ్చి సమ్ పీపుల్ ప్రెస్టీజ్, స్టేటస్, ఇవన్నీ చూసి చదువుతామను. కొందరు ఏమనుకుంటా అంటే నేను సంఘ సేవ చేయాలి, నేను ప్రజలకు సహాయం చేయాలి అని అట్లా కొంతమంది ఆ భావంతో వస్తారన్నమాట. మోస్ట్ ఇంపార్టెంట్ థింగ్ ఏమిటి అంటే మనకు ఎందుకు దాని మీద మక్కువ ఎందుకు వస్తుంది అంటే, ఒకటి కొందరికి స్టేటస్ ఇస్ ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఫర్ సమ్ పీపుల్ ఎబిలిటీ టు హెల్ప్ ఎ లాట్, సమ్ పీపుల్ నాకు మంచి పేరు వస్తుంది అని. అట్లా ఈచ్ వన్ హ్యాస్ ఏ డిఫరెంట్ మోటివేషన్ టు డూ ఇట్. అండ్ సమ్ పీపుల్, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ మెనీ సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఇంజనీర్స్ హూమ్ ఐ హ్యావ్ డిస్కస్డ్ విత్, వాళ్ళు వచ్చి బేజారు అయిపోతుంది అనమాట. పని చేసి పొద్దున్న నుంచి సాయంత్రం దాకా గొంతు నొప్పి, నడుము నొప్పి, వీపు నొప్పి. సో వాళ్ళకు కొంతమంది ఇంకా ఎన్ని రోజులు ఇది చేస్తామో దీంట్లో ఏం లేదు అని దే వాంట్ టు యాక్చువల్లీ గో టు సంథింగ్ డిఫరెంట్ అన్నమాట. సమ్ పీపుల్ మే బికమ్ ఎంటర్ప్రిన్యూర్, సమ్ పీపుల్ విల్ సే లెట్ మీ ట్రై ది ఐఏఎస్, ఇట్లా అనుకుంటారు చాలామంది. ఎస్పెషల్లీ ఐ హావ్ సీన్ నవడేస్ ఐఏఎస్లో కూడా ఎక్కువ మంది సాఫ్ట్వేర్ ఇంజనీర్సే. సో విత్ ద రిజల్ట్ వాట్ ఈస్ హ్యాపెనింగ్, ది ఐఏఎస్ ఆల్సో ఇస్ బికమ్ మోర్ టెక్నాలజీ ఓరియంటెడ్ అన్నమాట. ఇట్స్ నో లాంగర్ మేము ఉన్నప్పుడు అంతా డిఫరెంట్గా ఉండింది ఓరియంటేషన్. టుడే ది ఓరియంటేషన్ ఇస్ టోటల్లీ టెక్నికల్. సో దే ఆర్ ఏబుల్ టు అండర్స్టాండ్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్, టెక్నాలజీ ఎవ్రీథింగ్ బాగా అర్థం చేసుకుంటారు, చేస్తారు అన్నమాట. సో ఐటీ ఇండస్ట్రీ వచ్చింది కాబట్టి దే ఆర్ ఏబుల్ టు హెల్ప్ ఎ లాట్ అన్నమాట. సో కామన్ మిస్టేక్స్ ఏమంటే, first is the time they are actually devoting to the IAS examination. How much time do they devote? Two, what things about their personality they themselves think they must improve. That is very important. Next is what are the books they should purchase. What is the time of study. These are all very important for a person because he is to first set his timetable. According to that timetable he must work. And he must build a timetable of classes also into that. Unless you are able to merge both these things, then only you can manage. So time management to me is very important. Second is what subjects you select for the optionals. This is, the rest of them are all actually mains. So you have to only do like this. In the mains also, question is what are the books you should read for them. And particularly ethics and values, what is it that you will do, and the other subjects according to your choice, your preference, where you feel comfortable, and where standard book is available, that is what. And second thing is people who can speak well, people who can answer well, or people whose language is good, whose diction is good, those people normally prefer to go to the foreign service. Others prefer the IAS. Apart from the IAS, people who are physically fit, strong, they opt for the IPS. Other people will opt for the civils, other services. And some people may opt for the Indian Audit and Account Service. This is how it happens.